I wasn't good at basketball. I played just enough to claim I played. A line for a college resume, a jersey in the yearbook, something my parents could mention at dinner. It wasn't a big game that night, which meant the bleachers were half empty and the gym sounded larger than usual. Shoes squeaking, a loose rim humming after every miss, the ball's thud hollowing out the space between us. We were down 9 when a kid from the other team decided I was his project. Short jokes. Air jokes. He couldn't hit water if he fell in, he yelled after a brick, and a couple of their bench guys laughed like they'd rehearsed it. I kept swallowing it like you swallow a cough in a quiet room, until I didn't. I shoved him. He slid off the court, palms skidding, eyes wide more from surprise than pain. The whistle cut everything in half. Ejected. I walked past my coach without looking up, like a sleepwalker who knows the route. The boys' locker room door was locked. It shouldn't have been. During games it was always propped an inch like a mouth breathing. I didn't want to go back to the coach and ask for the key. I knew the other entrance, the back one outside, near the dumpsters where the wind always smelled like detergent and old rubber. That door was cracked open. It was never cracked open. Inside the temperature was wrong. The cold wasn't sharp, just heavy, the kind that collects in corners and sits there waiting. The lights were off and I'd left my phone in my bag. I closed the door and felt the room tighten around the click, as if the dark had been pulled on like a cap. I ran my fingers along the cinderblock wall to find the switch. My skin made a dry whispering sound against the paint. Over my own noise another sound slipped in, a small metallic kiss, quick and precise. A locker closing. Not slamming. Place shut. I said, "Who's there?" Too confidently, like an older brother pretending he wasn't scared of the basement. The word "there" bounced off the room and came back. Thinner. No answer. It wasn't pitch black. The high windows carried in a diluted silver from the parking lot. I started down the aisles, the long rows of metal back-to-back, doors pimpled with vents, combination dials like little black eyes. The smell of disinfectant and damp cotton clung to the air. Somewhere ahead, a footstep answered mine. Not quite an echo. Slightly out of step. I stopped. So did it. I moved. It moved on the other side of the row. It's strange how quickly you start talking to the you who's watching you. Turn around. Go. It's nothing. The janitor. It's the heating system. I told myself all of it and none of it sounded like me. At the last aisle, there was movement, just a suggestion of it, something big pulling out of view. A mass, not a shape. Like the shadow had its own weight. My mouth tasted like pennies. I pivoted to the main door and tugged. Locked. Beside it, my fingers found a switch and flipped it. The fluorescence woke up in stuttering segments. Buzz. Flicker. Buzz. The room snapped into colorless focus. Benches. Straps. A stained towel in a tired heap. No people. Light makes you bold. Lies like that. Hey, I said because the script requires it. Seriously, who's there? My voice sounded less like mine and more like someone playing it from a few lockers away. I walked again, slower. In aisle 3, something scuffed where I had just been. In aisle 4, a door shivered, barely, like it had changed its mind. The sound of footsteps kept pairing itself with me, always across, always one aisle over. It didn't chase. It mirrored. Every time I pivoted, it pivoted behind the metal. A companion I couldn't meet. I told myself to be done with it. I told myself to leave. But something small and stubborn in me, pride maybe, said find him. Catch him out. The rows narrowed as I passed the freshman section. The doors dented and stickered. That's when I noticed the vents between the lockers. Thin ovals punched through the steel little knuckles of darkness. You could see through them if you got close enough, if your eye lined up just right. I crouched. The concrete had that chalky cold that bites through jeans. I put one eye to a vent, cheek against metal, and waited for my vision to settle. At first it was only black. Then the black shifted, like a curtain you didn't realize was breathing. I leaned closer. The smell of old metal filled my nose. The darkness on the other side blinked. It wasn't darkness. It was an eye. Wet, huge, centered on the hole, so close that my own reflection swam in it. It didn't flinch. It didn't widen like I expected. It simply continued to look, patiently, as if it had been looking before I arrived and would keep looking long after I left. There are sophisticated reactions to fear. Mine wasn't one of them. I fell backward, palms skidding, knees scrubbing grit. The lights hummed louder, then dimmed, then steadied. My brain recorded all of it as if cataloging reasons not to scream. I didn't say a word. I ran. The back door offered no resistance. The night gave me air that didn't feel borrowed. The parking lot lights had that foggy halo that makes you wonder if your eyes are leaking. I found my coach at the court doors, his anger already rehearsed, his jaw ready. He didn't use it. He saw me. "There's someone in the locker room," I said and watched the sentence land. He told the ref. The ref told the whistle. Half our team and the coach went in together. I stayed by the door, trying not to watch the high windows. 10 minutes later, nothing. "Probably a janitor," someone said. Except the back door was open to the night, and the room was colder than outside, and doors don't close themselves softly unless someone teaches them how. We learned something we didn't want at the end of the game. 4 freshmen had missing clothes. Not valuables, not phones. Clothes. Their aisle looked rummaged, then carefully smoothed over. That detail bothered me more than anything. How quiet the mess was. Like someone had practiced leaving nothing but a feeling behind. I don't think about the eye as a face. I think about the space it occupied, how much of the locker it needed to disappear. I think about how it didn't react to me finding it, as if I had trespassed on an observation that was already in progress. I've stopped arguing with the part of myself that says I was lucky. Lucky that all I caught was a look. Lucky that the look let me go. Sometimes in new gyms I still test the doors to see which ones are supposed to be locked and aren't. I tell myself it's just caution. I keep my phone on me for the light. But the truth is smaller and worse. I want to make sure there's metal between us if we ever meet again. I want a vent, a thin, controllable distance where seeing feels like safety. It isn't.
We used to have a place. Not an official park. More like a clearing that happened to hold a baseball diamond and a cracked half-court with one stubborn hoop. It sat off a dead-end dirt road, and if you didn't already know, it was there, you wouldn't find it. 8 of us met there most summer evenings while our parents pretended the country raised kids for them. That July night the sky did that orange fade that means you've got 20 good minutes left. I was up to bat when 2 guys in the outfield lowered their gloves and pointed. 6 men walked into the clearing and took the bench near the tree line. 20s or 30s, hard to tell, clothes that weren't tough so much as used badly. They didn't heckle. They didn't cheer. They just watched. Their laughter didn't match their faces. We packed up. No speech. No vote. We just did it, the way animals move when weather changes. Someone called, "Don't leave," and for a second we almost believed it was friendly. But when we looked back, all 6 were standing, staring, like they'd been waiting for a cue and finally heard it. Most of the guys lived in the same direction. I didn't. I asked Jordan to walk me to the path, just far enough that it wouldn't look like I was peeling off alone. He did. We high-fived. He turned right. I turned left, into the trees where the dirt road dissolved into packed earth. I kept a small flashlight in my bag. Country kids learn that early. I used it sparingly. Light makes you visible. The woods took in the last of the daylight and transformed it into a color you can't name. Crickets started their electric chorus. Every snap of twig under my feet sounded like a declaration. I could feel sweat at the hinge of my jaw. I just wanted to get home, wash the day off, sleep. Somewhere behind me, laughter lifted. Not boys, not my friends, but older and wrong, overlapping like a radio catching 2 stations at once. I walked faster. A couple of spare balls fell from my unzipped bag and thumped into the brush. I knelt, cursing, sweeping the beam of my flashlight through ferns and poison ivy and whatever else lives at the edges of paths. The light bounced and the forest leapt, and I told myself to leave the stupid balls and go. Leaves. Just behind me. A twig snapped in that exact way that means not an animal. I turned and the beam found a man in a black hooded sweatshirt, hood low, face in shadow, hands at his sides like he was listening to his own pulse. He wasn't creeping. He was closing distance the way elevators do. Ding, and here. The second the light hit him, he ran. I dropped the flashlight. I didn't decide to, I just did. My bag thumped against my spine, then fell away. I sprinted the path I knew too well to trip on, breath tearing thin in my throat. The air smelled like old bark and something sour. Behind me, feet pounded in a rhythm meant to catch me. I poured everything forward until the trees opened just enough for the warm spill of a porch light to cut across the ground like a finish line. I screamed for my parents. The footsteps behind me stopped, the way a song cuts off when you slam a radio off. I didn't look back. My dad's voice hit the porch before he did. My mom's hands found my shoulders and decided shaking didn't help. Calls were made. Parents woke up. Everyone checked in. Jordan said someone had followed him for a minute too, a shape that chose not to run when he did. Chose. The word did something ugly to my stomach. We weren't allowed back after that. Our field turned into a story. We still live in the same house. Sometimes I lie awake and imagine which line through the trees they took to learn where I lived. There's a difference between not knowing and knowing someone else knows. It changes how doors sound when they close. I went to the clearing once the next autumn in daylight just to see if the world still fit. Grass had already tried to take the baseline back. The bench where the men sat seemed smaller. I stood where I dropped the balls and aimed my arm into the brush like I still held the light. I didn't step in. I didn't want to find anything I'd lost. Country nights are loud if you listen. Owls talk like questions asked through cloth. The road carries engines from far away and lays them at your window. When the wind is right, the trees near the clearing sound like hands rubbing together. I tell myself that's all it is. But sometimes, halfway to sleep, I remember the way the man waited for the light to find him before he ran. Not surprised. Not shy. Practiced. If I dream of a path that keeps looping back to its own beginning. The clearing waits. The bench fills. Someone points. The bat in my hands is heavy, and the sky has already started to turn. My little brother plays on a youth hockey team. That night his game was outdoors, the kind of cold that makes your breath feel heavy. The rink lights threw pale halos into the mist, and every shout echoed like it was happening twice. I took my girlfriend Michelle to watch. By the first intermission we were bored. The score was 4-0, my brother's team losing badly. "Let's walk for a bit," I said. Behind the rink stretched a wooded park. Locals called it the Burning Woods. No one remembered why, only that the name stuck. We wandered past the floodlights into the trees, where the air smelled like wet bark and old smoke. We sat on a fallen log. I pulled out what we'd brought to smoke. She laughed, told me I was going to get us caught. That's when the leaves shifted behind us. Footsteps. I hid the lighter in my pocket. 2 men stepped out from between the trees. One had a buzz-cut mohawk with a green stripe. The other was bald, big, with a goatee that looked carved from wire. "Hey," Greenstripe said, smiling. "You got enough for 2 more?" I tried to joke. "Not really." He grinned wider. "I'm kidding, man. But I got some real good stuff in my car. You want to try it?" Michelle's hand found mine. She didn't squeeze, just held. "No thanks," I said. "We're fine." They nodded. "Cool, cool," the bald one said, but their eyes didn't leave us. We started walking back toward the lights. Halfway there, a twig snapped to our left. I looked, he was there again. Greenstripe, half hidden behind a tree, head tilted just enough to see us. "Let's keep moving," I whispered. We walked faster. The rink lights glowed ahead, faint through the fog. Another crack, behind us this time. Then a voice, soft and amused. "Hey, come back." I didn't turn. We stepped out of the tree line and back into the open, where the cold air felt safer. Their laughter followed, faint, playful, like the forest itself was laughing. We sat on the bleachers again, pretending nothing had happened. Crowd noise felt comforting, human. When the game ended, most people left quickly. My brother stayed to talk with his coach. The lot emptied fast, just 3 cars under the flickering lights. As we pulled out, headlights filled the mirror. A black SUV. At first it just followed. Then it sped up, tailgating, the horn blaring once, twice. Michelle whispered, "It's them." My hands shook on the wheel. Up ahead, on the side road, a police cruiser sat with its lights off. I slowed beside it, rolled down my window. "Officer, those guys behind us are harassing us." The cop glanced up from his phone, nodded once, said, "Okay," and rolled his window back up. The SUV passed slowly, its windows dark. No plates visible. Then it turned into the woods road and vanished. I wanted to believe that was the end of it. But on the drive home, every passing pair of headlights felt like them again. Every mirror held too much darkness. 2 weeks later, it still bothers me. Sometimes when I drop my brother off at practice, I park where I can see the tree line. The forest looks quiet, almost empty. Almost. Once, when the fog rolled low over the ice, I thought I saw a shadow standing just beyond the lights. Not moving. Watching. Michelle told me I was paranoid. Maybe she's right. But when the wind picks up and the leaves scrape the ground, I still hear it. That voice, soft and friendly. "Hey, come back."